Hello YouTube, welcome back to our channel. Today we are taking you to Château de Rambouillet. So, on y va.
Today we're going about 50 kilometers from Paris to the heart of one of the largest forests in the Île-de-France region, the Forest of Rambouillet. And we're here to visit the historic chateau that was adored by many male monarchs and nobles, but was called La Crapaudière, or a toad hole, by none other than Marie-Antoinette. Its story begins in 1368, when a man named Jean Bernier bought a modest manor on this spot. 6 years later, he had turned it into a fortified castle, ringed with ditches and curtain walls. We are in the middle of La Guerre de Cent Ans, and the English are never very far away.
In 1384, the estate passed to the powerful Danjan family, who would hold it for the next 3 centuries. The chateau did not come through the war unscathed. It was pillaged and burned between 1425 and 1428.
Passing through the vaulted brick Escalier d'Honneur, a rare vestige of the Renaissance chateau, we find ourselves in La Salle de Marbre. Its walls and floor are lined with geometric panels of marble, white from the Pyrenees, blue turquoise, and red from the Languedoc.
Jean II Danjan and his wife Philippa spent much of their lives and much of their fortune rebuilding it. Today, the chateau looks like a mix of different styles, but its oldest part still rises above everything else. La Grosse Tour, the great medieval tower. Its most famous guest was the French king, who came back again and again to hunt these forests, François I. And it was here, on 31st of March 1547, that he died. He had fallen ill during a hunt, and his friend Jacques Danjan brought him back to the chateau in haste. It was in vain. By tradition, François I took his last breath in the upper chamber of the great tower.
In 1612, Louis XIII raised Rambouillet to marquisate in favor of Danjan. However, by the end of that century, the last Danjan heir was drowning in debt. He was forced to hand the estate to his main creditor, Fleuriot d'Armenonville, finance steward to Louis XIV. He had paid only 140,000 livres for the domain, then poured more than 500,000 into it. He is the one who reshaped the grounds into a formal French garden, with parterres and canals fed by the many springs of this marshy land. Then in 1706, the king judged Rambouillet too magnificent for a member of the noblesse de robe and effectively ordered its transfer to his legitimized son, the Comte de Toulouse, compensating Fleuriot d'Armenonville with 500,000 livres and the capitainerie of La Muette and the Bois de Boulogne, including use of the Château de Madrid. Rambouillet now had its most illustrious owner yet. Louis Alexandre de Bourbon, Comte de Toulouse, was the legitimized son of Louis XIV and Madame de Montespan. An admiral of France, he wanted a hunting estate within easy reach of Versailles. He expanded the domain enormously, up to 13,000 hectares. Between 1730 and 1736, he fitted out the rooms we now call l'Appartement d'Assemblée. By the way, if you haven't seen our episode from Banque de France, we highly recommend it, as is the other magnificent property that belonged to the Comte. The Grand Salon was once the Comtesse's state bedchamber. Napoleon I would later use it as his reception room. Its boiseries, or the woodwork, hide a whole language of carving: sheaves of wheat, a hunting horn, a violin, sheet music, a basket of fruit, all tied up in ribbons. In the Salon de Conseil, tapestries from the Gobelins feature a soft pink background. The Louis XV armchairs are upholstered in Beauvais tapestry, their seats woven with the Fable de la Fontaine. And tucked into one of the towers, the Oratoire, its coffered dome painted in trompe-l'œil to give a dizzying illusion of depth. These are the finest historic interiors in the chateau, paneled in the delicate rocaille boiserie, with views over the park and its canals.
The next mark on the chateau is unmistakably Napoleon I. He brought Rambouillet back to life after the revolution, restoring it as his hunting residence by 1807. He left a heavy mark too, including the demolition of the chateau's entire east wing in 1805, which is why the cour d'honneur looks slightly lopsided to this day. And he left the single most surprising room on the visit, his salle de bain. It's decorated in the Pompeian style, with a tinted copper bath set into an alcove. All around the walls, round circular painted medallions and there is a story behind them. The very first version, in 1807, placed a portrait of each member of the imperial family inside those medallions. But Napoleon thought, and we definitely agree with him on this one, real faces were far too solemn for something as intimate as a bathroom. So he had them painted over with views of places instead. Pairs of griffins mark out the men, while pairs of swans, the women. Beside it, his empire-style salle à manger completes the apartment, paneled in the taste of the early 19th century.
We then arrived to La Grande Salle à Manger. Under the Empire, this was the chateau's ballroom. Today, it's dressed as a presidential dining room. The table is laid exactly as it was in the very first summit of G6, hosted here in 1975. Because Rambouillet still had one last role in the French political history. From 1896 all the way to 2009, it served as the summer residence of the Presidents of the Republic. A whole apartment upstairs was kept for visiting foreign heads of states. It's not allowed to take images there, so you gotta use your imagination or have a look at the chateau's website. Rambouillet also has a strange habit of hosting rulers at the very end of their reigns. Napoleon I spent his last night on French soil here, in June 1815 on the road to exile. 15 years later, Charles X signed his abdication in this same chateau on August 2nd, 1830, before setting off into exile in his turn.
So now we're walking like idiots. They said it takes about 15 minutes by foot and 3-4 minutes by car. We don't have a car, so we're walking. There is also a bus stop, but we didn't check the timings, and we can walk. It's just hot today. Yeah, but we're really looking forward to seeing the Laiterie. Really, seriously looking forward to seeing it, because recently they've also placed some of the chairs that they got from Versailles, from Petit Trianon, and I think we've recorded those chairs. If it's the same chairs and they've just transferred them here, then that would be great, because we recorded them a year ago in Petit Trianon, and it seems to me the same chairs. It's the same chairs, because they originally were here, and then Petit Trianon got it, Versailles got it, and then Versailles landed back now to Rambouillet.
This is where Marie-Antoinette finally enters the picture of Rambouillet. I personally looked forward to seeing La Laiterie de la Reine for a very long time. Somehow, we just couldn't make it earlier. When Louis XVI bought this domain from his cousin, the Duc de Penthièvre, in 1783, he paid a staggering 16 million livres for it. And leaving the estate where he'd been born, the Duke took something with him, the 9 coffins of his family, carried off to be reburied at Dreux, in what would become La Chapelle Royale de Dreux, the future necropolis of the Orléans. We've done an entire episode on Dreux and went full into the history of the Orléans there. The episode is linked in the pinned comment. Unfortunately for Louis XVI, however, his wife could not stand Rambouillet. She found it damp, gloomy, and hopelessly old-fashioned. On discovering it, she said to have cried, "What will I become in this Gothic toad hole?" Or precisely, La Crapaudière. And that was the name Marie-Antoinette chose for her husband's beloved chateau. So the king set out to win her over with the most tender and most desperate gift he could imagine. He had this Laiterie built in near total secrecy from 1785, so as not to draw attention to a treasury already running dangerously low. He brought in the finest artists of the time, the painter Hubert Robert, the sculptor Pierre Julien, and the architect Jacques-Jean Thévenin. Inside, the rotonde is lit from above through a coffered dome. Niches along the walls once held a Sèvres porcelain made specifically for the dairy. Of 65 pieces, fewer than 20 survive today. You can see some of them in our Sèvres episode that we published earlier this year. And at the far end, hidden in an artificial grotto, stands Pierre Julien's sculpture of the nymph Amalthée and her goat, the nymph who protected the infant Jupiter, an allusion to the protection of France's own royal line. This is a copy, as the original can be seen in the Louvre. And after all of it, the temple, the grotto, the porcelain, the secrecy, Marie-Antoinette still did not warm up to Rambouillet. The king went on coming here to hunt alone, until the revolution took even that from him.
Honestly, this is the best part of this Rambouillet domain. It is so beautiful. We stayed there for how long?
At least 20 minutes.
At least 20 minutes. Just looking at the things. Oh, you can sense it was built for her. Like, you can feel the taste directly, you know. The furniture was, of course, as I mentioned prior to going in, is from Versailles. Versailles donated it to Rambouillet because basically initially it was here, then it was moved to Versailles in 1793, and it came back here. And yeah, we spent 20 minutes just looking around. So beautiful. I just wish we could see it functioning, but of course it's not functioning, as in the water is not running, you know. I cannot even imagine how beautiful it must be if the water is running, and the sound, and
The light is amazing there.
it's just so beautiful.
Goes through so beautifully.
Anyway, we're going to the next place and the last place in the domain. Let's check it out.
Our last stop lies deeper in the park, across a river, on a small island, La Chaumière aux Coquillages. And it takes us back one generation, to the Duc de Penthièvre. Louis Jean-Marie de Bourbon was the son of the Comte de Toulouse, and he was born here at Rambouillet. He loved the place, and he devoted himself above all to the park, laying out 25 hectares in then fashionable English style. This cottage was his most enchanting creation. Built around 1779, for his daughter-in-law, La Princesse de Lamballe. Widowed young, childless, and not yet 20, she was brought here by her father-in-law to be consoled. From the outside, it looks like nothing more than a humble, thatched cottage, but behind that shell lies a fairy tale interior, walls and ceiling entirely covered in shells, mother of pearl, and fragments of marble. The shells came from far and wide, freshwater mussels from Nogent-sur-Seine, and scallops, razor clams, and oysters from the coast of Normandy. Each shell was fixed with a heated nail pushed into fresh mortar, and every shell still held by its nail is an original. The curved furniture from the folio workshop follows the round of the room, its seats shaped like scallop shells, its feet like reeds.
It's a creation unique of its kind in the whole of Europe, and it carries a dark epilogue. La Princesse de Lamballe, intimate friend of Marie-Antoinette, would be torn apart by the Paris mob in September 1792, leading to her head set on a pike and paraded on the streets of the capital. Her loyalty to the queen basically cost her everything. As we leave the domain, the path winds out through that same Jardin Anglais the Duke laid out more than 2 centuries ago, where the formal lines of Versailles give way to something wilder and altogether romantic in a different way.
And that's it for today. We hope you liked this episode as much as we did. If you would like to see more of these videos, please don't forget to like, share and comment below. And until the next one, au revoir.